Alrighty, this is our assignment number 2, the think tank assignment. It is myself, Andy Melton, and Barbara Quickstad, and our topic is Social Security. So then, the problem that we're trying to solve and deal with this think tank assignment is that the retirement age in the United States has been constantly rising, and it will continue to rise after all the baby boomers retire. So some other possible questions that we are fielding during our research is, what age is it going to be possible for our generation to retire? If people retire later, it's going to open up less jobs for recent college graduates, which will be us soon. And then the depletion of Social Security funds is kind of scary because it is going down a lot, and there needs to be some things need to happen if people our age want to have help with their retirement when they are too old to work. And also too, another problem that we face and we're trying to solve during this is that people are not individually saving for the retirement themselves, and they're relying solely on Social Security. And for our study, for the geographical area that we are getting at, no Social Security, not enough retirement funds, it is a problem around the entire United States of America. So it is a nationwide problem. So there isn't a specific geographical place, and we are just concentrating on the United States, not any other countries. So the history of retirement, here's kind of a broad history of where retirement used to be and where it is today. So in the Stone Age and biblical times, life expectancy was very, very low. People had to work very hard. There wasn't much time for leisure. So people usually worked until they died. It sounds awfully rough, but that is just how it was back in the day for the first thousands of years of our existence. And then later on in history, it was common for elderly to live with and be provided by their sons or daughters. So they'd either just live with one of their kids, or else they would switch off between different families that their children now have. And that is still a common practice. You will see that around the world, and it still happens around the United States too, but it is not as common as it used to be. In 1883, Chancellor Otto von Bismarck of Germany decided that the government will pay pensions to non-working people over 65 years old. And he did that because the older generation were working and holding on to the jobs, but they weren't being effective in doing them as well as the young people. So that was just something that Chancellor Otto von Bismarck of Germany decided would be a good idea. So that was kind of the first somewhat Social Security system in the country. It was in Germany. And then he also set the precedent for 65 years old, which that's been a big deal because in America and in most other countries around the world that have retirement or government assisting, 65 years old seems to be the age that people cannot work as efficiently and as effectively as they could when they were younger. And then where it really hits home in the United States of America was in 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt implemented social insurance during the Great Depression because the poverty rate for senior citizens exceeded 50%. And he really just did this to get people out of the Great Depression, and then it turned into what we know nowadays as Social Security. As of 2013, the expected retirement age has risen to 67. As of right now, government officials and financial experts are predicting that the Social Security funds, if it stays the way it is now, they're going to run out by 2033, between 2033 and 2042, which seems far away, but really it's not that far away if we're talking about our generation of work. And it is a broad way, and obviously that 9-year gap is a pretty broad range, but it has to be very flexible because it is hard to predict it, and trends are very hard to predict when it comes with this stuff, whether if it's inflation or new policies or things like that. And also too, that number might not be all that accurate because before reform in the 1980s, they thought Social Security was going to run out by the late 1990s, which they switched things, so now it's a much later date. And now Barbara is going to speak.
Okay, sorry, I'm losing my voice, but some other factors that we thought would affect this would be people are going to be working longer because they have a lack of a real retirement plan. The baby boomers aren't so sure what they're going to do, or if they're going to be working every day, what they're going to do if they're not working every day. There's also going to be health advances. People are going to end up living longer, which means they're going to be healthy enough to work past 65, which is the retirement age right now. And this living longer also means that they're going to be taking out of the Social Security longer, which means that there won't be enough to make it last long enough. People also do not want to retire if they are not absolutely sure that they will have enough money for their retirement plan. And young workers can't save for retirement until they have paid off college loans, which is currently where a lot of us are going to be at when we graduate college. It's a big problem a lot of us are facing right now. And then people with credit card debt virtually can't have savings until they pay off that credit card debt, so they need to do that first before they can actually start saving. And if older people do not retire, the youthful employees, which is us, will not get hired, which is probably why a lot of people are having a hard time finding jobs lately. And then we have our mission statement, which is to ensure Social Security is maintained while working with younger generations to make sure they save early and throughout their entire life so that they are not completely dependent on Social Security to fund their retirement. We basically just want people to save their own money and not rely solely on the Social Security. Then we have our theoretical solution. We want people to start saving at an early age when they get their first job. Whatever they can do, just start saving little by little. Everything will help them. We want to reform the Social Security, and obviously the government would have to do this. We think that the Social Security should not be able to kick in until age 75, and you're basically going to be on your own from the time you retire until the time that you are 75 years old, which will make people have to save for themselves and not just rely on it. We would have to work with banks to make sure that saving for retirement will be easier and more affordable. And then Andy is going to talk next.
So ways we're going to go about implementing change with the banks is we got to start up just United States banks, not worry about world banks. We need them to start getting accounts that really compound interest early so that it is worth saving. The more money you put in then, the more money you'll end up making, so you won't have to depend on Social Security. Then we need to really convince young people about these new accounts and get them to join in, because if they don't and they start saving too late, then we run into the same cycle again of relying on Social Security. So we really are emphasizing save as soon as you get that first job as a 15, 16-year-old teenager. Next would be Social Security reform. Now, we don't know how to really go about implementing governmental change at this point in time, unless one of us wants to run for government, which I don't think we do. So what we need to do is we need to implement or try to implement change through our leaders and have them see the points that we're making, like the changing the age you can start receiving benefits to 75. Right now, currently, you can start receiving benefits at 62 years old, and that way you can still work until you're about 67 is the common retirement age. So you're collecting partial benefits for 5 years, and then you get the full benefits once you retire. So if we move that age to 75, people who retire at 67 are then going to have to rely on themselves for nearly 10 years of saving and having their own money before they get more money. This might create more funding within the Social Security system, and that way we can have it when we grow up and become real people. Our solution, why our solution is going to work, and it's basically government reform has happened before, so we think it can happen again. As Justin alluded to earlier, we had reform in the 80s that moved the date Social Security was going to run out, moved it back a few years, and so now we want to do that again. The banks want people's business with these new accounts, so getting them involved, they're hopefully going to get more clientele. Banks happy, people happy with more money. With the health advances, it's going to allow people to live longer, so moving this date back to 75 really helps in large part with that depletion of Social Security, because people are living closer into their 80s and 90s, so we really gotta make sure we delegate our resources so that we're not depleting them so quickly. And then people will be required to really save on their own, so you can't be dependent on the government, which is a good thing we think in this country. We're not talking about, complete anarchy, and we're definitely not talking socialism or communism. We're just talking that people are going to be, getting government help when they actually need government help, not just relying on it no matter what. We're going to partner up with the federal government. That includes elected officials, senators, congresspeople, president. We're also going to go with banks and bank presidents. They've got to be in on this, and then really getting U.S. citizens to buy into this program. Implications, well, if we can't get government reform, then we're probably screwed. But government reform probably could happen as long as there's enough support with the citizens. If people don't use these new bank accounts we're talking about, that can also struggle, but with that, people already have savings accounts that they're using right now that they might be happy with. These ones would just possibly add more money to your account, so either you want more money or you don't. We also haven't accounted for all variables for why people use their money and can't save, such as health concerns and issues, accidents, colleges, loans, children, traveling the world. Basically the types of things you do every day or some expected event. We didn't plan for that. And if the banks won't open these new accounts, then that's also probably a loss for them in their business, but they will still have business because banks will run pretty well into the future. And so that is all we've got about Social Security and how that'll affect us in the future. We hope that Social Security is around for us if we need it. Otherwise, we've really got to, as a generation, save now and have our kids save as much as they can when they get their first jobs. Thank you.